My entitled sister borrowed my car, got it towed, and refused to pay. When I cut her off, she tried to ruin my reputation, but I finally found peace. I'm 29, male, and the responsible one in my family. You know, the guy who works a steady job, keeps his life on track, pays his bills on time, and doesn't ask anyone for anything. My sister, on the other hand, she's 26, lives with our parents, and somehow manages to have all the freedom in the world. She's got this entitlement that's been a slow burn of frustration for me over the years. And this story? This story is the breaking point. It all started on a Friday evening. She messaged me out of the blue. Hey, can I borrow your car this weekend? That's it. No please, no reason, just a casual demand. She knew I didn't have anything major going on that weekend, but the way she phrased it, like she was doing me a favor, had me clenching my teeth. I could already feel the nagging sense that this was going to be more trouble than it was worth, but she's my sister. So against my better judgment, I replied, fine, but make sure it's back by Sunday night. I have work Monday, and I'll need it. Yeah, sure, she said, barely paying attention like it was no big deal. She was always this way, half listening, half present, only paying attention to things that directly benefited her. So, I handed over the keys and went about my weekend. By Sunday night, I was getting anxious. My gut told me I should check in, so I texted her, asking when she'd be back. Silence. I waited an hour. Texted her again. Still nothing. By midnight, I'd called her 3 times with no response, and by Monday morning, I still hadn't heard from her. I ended up having to call out from work because, well, my car was still missing. Finally, she called back around noon, sounding more annoyed than apologetic. Oh, chill out. I was going to bring it back today. I just had a few drinks last night, and I didn't feel like driving home. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. You knew I needed it today. Why didn't you at least answer my calls? She actually had the audacity to scoff. I didn't think it was a big deal. It's just one day. You're making this way more dramatic than it needs to be. The entitlement. It was like she didn't see anything wrong with completely appending my plans just because she didn't feel like driving. But I gritted my teeth and let it go, thinking I'd just get my car back, and that'd be the end of it. Except, of course, it wasn't. Later that day, she texted me a single line. Car got towed, but I'll pay you back later. I stared at the message, feeling my stomach drop. She'd left it in some random lot overnight, and when I called the towing company, I found out the fees had already racked up to nearly $400. I called her back immediately, my voice shaking with barely controlled anger. You're paying for this today. You don't get to dump this on me. She laughed. She actually laughed. Seriously? You can afford it. Stop being so uptight. It's just a tow fee, not the end of the world. I hung up. I couldn't even handle talking to her right then. I went down to the lot myself, paid the $400, and got my car back, vowing this would be the last time she ever got a favor from me. The next weekend, I saw her at a family gathering. She sauntered in, all carefree and unbothered, like she hadn't just cost me a day of work and several $100s. She was even telling people about how unlucky she'd gotten with my car getting towed, laughing as if it were a quirky little mishap. My fists clenched just listening to her. Later, when I managed to pull her aside, I kept it short. You need to pay me back for the tow. I can't afford to cover for you. She rolled her eyes, that smug smile still on her face. Oh my God, you're so obsessed with money. What happened to family helps family? Why are you acting like some debt collector? The sheer entitlement in her voice. It was like she genuinely believed she was doing me a favor by even acknowledging me. That was the last straw. I told her she was cut off. No more favors, no more helping family, nothing. I was done being her safety net. Her reaction? She shrugged. You'll get over it. You always do. But this time I meant it. I cut off contact. I refused her calls, ignored her texts, and made it clear that, as far as I was concerned, she was on her own. Except she didn't take it well. She started with our parents, feeding them a twisted version of the story where I was the villain. She told them I'd left her stranded, that I'd turned my back on family, making herself sound like the victim. The next day, I got a call from Mom, who was convinced I'd abandoned her in her time of need. I tried to explain, told Mom that she'd run up a $400 towing bill, and that she'd been nothing but disrespectful about it. Mom's response? But she's your sister. You shouldn't be so harsh with her. I could tell she wasn't going to listen. My sister knew exactly how to twist things to get everyone on her side, and as usual, she got away with it. I hung up, fuming, but there was nothing I could do. When that didn't work, she went after my friends. She knew a few of them from back in high school, so she started reaching out, dropping hints that I'd abandoned her and was going through something, as if I was the one with issues. She played the concerned sister, telling them that I'd cut her off and was acting distant, making it sound like I'd lost my mind. I started getting messages from friends, asking if everything was okay between us or if I was mad at her for some reason. It was surreal, seeing her manipulate everyone around me just to make herself look innocent. But she didn't stop there. A week later, I got a notice in the mail for a parking ticket. The date? It was from that weekend she'd borrowed my car. Apparently, she'd been driving all over town, parking wherever she wanted, and racking up tickets in my name. I felt sick, staring at the fine, knowing there was no way I could prove it was her. I texted her, demanding she pay me back, and this time, she didn't even respond. She knew she had me cornered. She knew I'd be the one stuck with the bill. I thought that was the worst of it, but then she crossed a line I never expected. One day at work, my manager pulled me aside. His face was serious, and I could tell something was off. He told me that the office had received a call from someone claiming to be a client, saying I'd been rude and disrespectful in a recent meeting. I was floored. I had no idea who would say something like that. But then he mentioned a specific detail. She said she was a family member of one of our clients. My stomach dropped. I knew in that moment that it had to be her. I managed to explain the situation to my boss, who thankfully believed me, but the damage was done. She had actually called my work, pretending to be a client, to sabotage me. And why? Because I'd finally said no to her. Because I'd finally drawn a line in the sand. That night, I blocked her on every platform I could think of, social media, phone, email. I reached out to mutual friends, telling them that I was done, and I wasn't interested in hearing anything from her. And for once, I didn't care if people saw me as the bad guy. I was done with the games, done with the manipulation, done with being her punching bag. Of course, my parents didn't see it that way. Mom called me a few days later, saying that my sister was heartbroken and that I needed to apologize. I could barely believe what I was hearing. I told her everything, the tickets, the towing fees, the stunt she pulled with my job. But even then, Mom said, she's family. You should be able to forgive her. And that's when I realized something. My sister had been this way her entire life because no one had ever held her accountable. She'd always had someone to bail her out, someone to clean up her mess, someone to be her safety net. And I was done being that person. I hung up on my mom, blocked my sister for good, and walked away from all the chaos. It wasn't easy. Cutting her off created a massive rift in our family, one that may never fully heal. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my own life. Now, months later, I haven't heard a word from her. Friends still ask if we're on speaking terms, and my parents bring her up in every conversation, but I don't budge. I know she's telling anyone who'll listen that I'm the unreasonable one, but I've stopped caring. Let her tell her side of the story. For the first time, I'm okay with letting her tell her version of events, spinning herself as the victim to anyone who'll listen. Because the truth, I've finally let go. I've stopped letting her guilt and manipulation worm their way into my life. She can spread all the stories she wants, and she probably will. But I'm no longer in the ring, no longer the person she can blame when things go sideways. My parents still try to nudge me into reconciliation, dropping hints about family being forever or making excuses for her. I know they're uncomfortable with the distance, with the fact that I won't play the part anymore. But I've made it clear to them that I'm done, and that includes shutting down any attempts to get me to forgive her without accountability. They can tell me all they want about how I should move past it, but they weren't the ones paying my bills, losing work, and defending their job against sabotage. At first, I kept a lot of anger, resentment that she'd pushed me this far, that she'd gone after my career, my finances, even my relationships. But as the weeks turned into months, that anger finally started to fade, replaced by something better, peace. Cutting her off hasn't just been about avoiding more chaos. It's been about protecting the life I've built, the relationships I value, and finally setting a boundary that should have been there a long time ago. Looking back, part of me wonders if I could have done things differently, maybe avoided the blow-up by talking things out sooner. But I know deep down that even if I had, nothing would have changed. This isn't about one incident, or even a handful of them. It's about a lifetime of someone who's never learned to respect anyone else's boundaries. Someone who always took, and took, without giving anything in return. Now, I finally understand that sometimes you have to let people go, not because you don't care about them, but because they don't care enough about you. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just walk away and refuse to keep being their safety net. So here I am, months after the fact, and I can honestly say that I don't regret a thing. For the first time, I'm in control of my own life, free from her games, her manipulations, her chaos. And that's a peace I wouldn't trade for anything.